Hello, dear fans, friends, and subscribers. Welcome to the Cricket Happening Show with your host Ram. And on this Cricket Happening Show, it's going to be the first day's play in the final test match, the day night test match with the pink ball, which happened at the Adelaide Oval yesterday. And one has to say that Du Plessis, who was as I said, he was actually found guilty of ball tampering, as you would know, and which he has readily, even though he had to admit it, but he definitely is not convinced about it, as you know. And he was the one who led the way for the Aussies yesterday with a brilliant century. One thought, and also what was very pertinent was that how he actually pried on a sort of a talk that was going on. He saw that David Warner was actually out of the field for quite a long time. He heard the umpire telling them that David Warner wouldn't be able to open the innings, and that really I would say it was a really psychological ploy on the part of Captain Du Plessis. After overhearing that, he decided that he will actually declare the innings closed, and that really came as a surprise for the Aussies, because he declared the innings closed for the South Africans at 259 for 9 wickets, with he being not out on 118 with 118 with 17 very good force, which was very good, very well, predominantly played through the offside, and what shots they were. I mean, he was the one who led them on a day where other than he and Cook, nobody were able to really get a handle other than Quinton de Kock. And 259 for 9, he declared it, and he wanted to have a go at the Aussies. So that was a really well thought out plan, and it was a very psychological ploy applied by, I mean, no captain would be declaring on the first day, but Du Plessis definitely looks like he's going for the jugular here, because what he did is he declared it and had a go at the Aussies. 12 overs bowled with Matt Renshaw showing nerves of steel on his test debut, along with Usman Khawaja, weathered the storm as they finished at 14 without loss. So I'll be talking about that, and a quick update here. Right now, players being stopped in the second test between New Zealand and Pakistan at the Seddon Park in Hamilton, where Pakistan won the toss. It was a good toss to win on a green pitch here in Seddon Park in Hamilton, and the New Zealand was 77 for 2 when rain stopped play. So I'll come back to that. But first, let's get on to the Australia-South Africa match, which is the one which is going to really hold the attention of every fan, viewer, and subscriber. So it was all about the day-night test match, the pink ball. South Africa making history for playing their first ever day-night test match, and they had the luck with the toss too. Du Plessis winning the toss and deciding to bat first. After deciding to bat first, we saw that Mitchell Starc and Hazelwood. Mitchell Starc was started off well, but Josh Hazelwood was really generating some very good swing, and later on Starc also generated some swing, and there was something in it for the bowlers, no doubt about it. And it all started off with Stephen Cook finding himself very tentative. He also escaped a sort of review, and it was a no ball, luckily for him, and Dean Elgar. But it was Mitchell Starc who provided the breakthrough, and all these wickets that were going were all caught behind yesterday. If you look at the way proceedings went, the first wicket to go was Dean Elgar. He was caught by, and also let me tell you, there were 3 debutants in the in the Australian team: Hanscom, Maddinson, and Renshaw, the opener. And South Africa, as expected, as I tweeted, it was Tabraiz Shamsi, the wrist spinner, making his test debut, and I thought that was a brilliant move. Now looking at this, it was Mitchell Starc who started off proceedings by getting the wicket of Dean Elgar, and Dean Elgar was dismissed for 5 with 1 boundary. After that, Josh Hazelwood got a ball to really swerve away from Amla, and Amla poked it into the slips, and Renshaw was kept at first slip. And one would have heard the Channel 9 cricket commentators, Ian Chappell definitely said that in the first test to keep James Renshaw in the sort of a first slip, was it the right move? Because he definitely would be a bit tensed up. But nevertheless, Renshaw kept his cool and took a neat catch of the bowling of Hazlewood. So Amla was gone for 5, and then Hazlewood created more problems for South Africa as he actually nipped up the wicket of JP Duminy, got an inside edge onto his bat as Wade picked up the catch, and suddenly this South Africa, after winning the toss, were in deep trouble at 44 for 3, with Stephen Cook, who was really looking tentative at the crease, but later on tried to steady himself as Du Plessis, the South African captain, joined him, and both started pushing the score along. As they pushed the score along by adding, they added 51 runs for the fourth wicket, and then Stephen Cook, after doing all the hard work, making 40 with 4 boundaries, was a victim. As I said, every wicket yesterday was going behind the wicket, and Stephen Cook was also caught by Stephen Smith of the bowling of Mitchell Starc for 40, and after that Du Plessis was made to actually lead a one-man army show for the South Africans. Du Plessis, when he entered the ground, he was really booed by the Aussie crowd after he was found guilty, as you would remember. So Du Plessis walked in, and what a way! I mean, one thought probably his morale would be low, but it was the reverse. Du Plessis was really flowing into his strokes yesterday, and we saw that he was screaming boundaries through the offside absolutely splendidly. And Tenda Bavuma came in to join him, and the score read 95 for 4, but Bavuma was really fooled by a slower delivery from Bird, and he actually had a feather to a ball from a Bird, which actually I would say came very slowly off the track, and he was fooled, I would say, and Wade picking up the catch, and Bavuma was gone for 8. After that, Quinton de Kock came in and joined Du Plessis, and Quinton de Kock started hitting some nice boundaries as he normally does, and he had 24 besides his name as Hazlewood came up for his second spell, and he nipped up the wicket of Quinton de Kock by getting him caught behind, but Du Plessis was still going strong at the other end. He was really playing a very measured knock there, and then Vernon Philander was the next victim, caught Wade, bowled Hazlewood for 4 with 1 boundary, and then Du Plessis definitely required some company because he was proceeding towards his century, and he definitely needed someone to stand with him. Now Kyle Abbott definitely did that by blocking a lot of balls as that was going on. Du Plessis was moving, slowly getting into his 90s, and that was the time Kyle Abbott fell a victim as he was LBW bowled Jackson Bird for 17 with no boundary. After that, Kagiso Rabada helped Du Plessis reach his century, and Kagiso Rabada himself trying to, after Du Plessis reached the century, we saw some 2 beautiful shots that he played through the offside. It was really something which was done in a very graceful manner, and was beautifully struck by Du Plessis. As I said, Du Plessis was very strong through the offside, and Kagiso Rabada, after Du Plessis got to his century, tried to hit Lyon into the stands, and he was stumped by Wade for 1, and then Tabrai Shamsi on his test debut came in and started giving company to Du Plessis as both started putting up a partnership. From 220, they put on an unbeaten 39 runs partnership, with Tabrai Shamsi hitting 2 boundaries in an unbeaten knock of 18, and Du Plessis had gathered 118 unbeaten runs with 17 fours, and that was the time when 76 overs were bowled. One would have probably never even expected this to happen, but the reports say that Du Plessis actually overheard a conversation between the umpires and probably the Australian players, so he definitely showed that he was listening, and he was keeping his hearing skills going very well. And I thought this was a good move by Du Plessis. Definitely he heard that David Warner was out of the field for quite a long time, and if at all he has to bat, then they would have to hit him. So what Du Plessis did, David Warner wouldn't be able to open the innings. So he heard that, and when he heard that, he really got a psychological ploy to actually put for the. He put a psychological ploy on the Aussies by really surprising one and all, I would say, at the ground. He surprised everybody, even the Australian team, when he actually declared the innings closed at 259 for 9, with Du Plessis not out 118 with 17 very good boundaries, and Sabsi on his debut was not out on 18, 2 fours. The declaration was applied, 259 for 9, and let's have a look at the bowling figures of the Aussies here. Mitchell Starc, and they also, Du Plessis knew that they have debutants there, and this is the right time for them to really go for the kill, and it was a very, very psychological ploy on the part of Du Plessis, and one has to credit Du Plessis for doing that, because there was only 1 wicket left. Mitchell Starc, all the bowlers bowled well according to me from the Aussie point of view. 23 overs, 5 minutes, 78 runs and 2 wickets for Mitchell Starc. Hazlewood really showed that he's always good with the pink ball. He showed this in the first day-night test that he played against New Zealand as well, picking up a fifer, and here he was the man of the match, as you would remember. 22 overs, 5 minutes, 68 runs and 4 wickets here for Hazlewood. Jackson Bird, 16 overs, 3 minutes, 2 for 57 on the money. And Nathan Lyon also bowled well, 15 overs, 1 minute, 1 for 45. Now, after Du Plessis declared, it was imperative that Australia had to bat out 12 overs on the first day, and David Warner was not opening the innings as expected, and we saw Usman Khawaja had to open with Usman Khawaja was opening the innings along with Matt Renshaw, the test debutant. But one has to say that Matt Renshaw, on his debut, the youngsters really showed some nerves of steel, one would say. He was beaten a couple of times, but his match temperament was outstanding, I thought. He really started showing some good judgment of leaving the balls outside the off stump, and he was really getting very close to the line of the ball, and he was nicely playing the South African bowlers as time passed by. Usman Khawaja also survived, and finally whatever was thrown at the Aussie openers, Usman Khawaja and Matt Renshaw made sure that they won't have any mishaps here, as Australia closed the day at 14 for no loss. Khawaja was not out on 3, and Matt Renshaw also hit 2 boundaries. Whatever storing strokes that he played, it was all of boundaries. 2 boundaries in his knock of 8 not out. 14 for no loss was Australia, and the bowling, Philander 4 overs, 2 minutes, none for 10. Kyle Abbott 3 overs, all maidens. Rabada 3 overs, 2 minutes, 1 run, no wicket. And Shamsi on his test debut bowled 2 overs on maiden, 1 run and no wicket. So Australia definitely have a lot to look forward to, in the sense they really have a sort of task on hand. And one good thing for them is that they have restricted the South Africans to 259, but definitely, as I said, there is definitely some movement available on this pitch, and one has to wait and watch as to how the Aussies go, whether they have learned their lessons and they can really come up trumps against South African bowling on the second day. Probably we are talking about another 2 hours from now, we will have the second day's play commencing at the Adelaide Oval, and the pink ball, as I said, a lot of lacquer in that, and the ball definitely was swinging. I thought when Mitchell Starc and also Jackson Bird and Hazlewood had the ball was really swinging. So we can definitely expect something coming in from the Aussies, especially one on Philander, who could really move the ball very well. And Kagiso Rabada too, at pace, he could also be a bit lethal. Well, so let's leave from here, and let's head on to the New Zealand versus Pakistan match. Today was the first day of the second test match between New Zealand and Pakistan, and it was played at Seddon Park in Hamilton, and Seddon Park in Hamilton normally, as you know, really assists the pace bowlers. There was a bit of greenish tinge on the pitch, and Pakistan very rightly taking the decision of actually putting the Kiwis into bat. And after putting the Kiwis into bat, well, one saw that the Pakistani bowlers were doing very well, especially Mohammad Amir. He was moving the ball beautifully, and he was really bowling a line where he was taking the ball away from the batsman, and he was waiting for the batsman to make a mistake, and then finally he was grasped. Tom Latham, in fact, G. Travel was grasped, I suppose, by Sami Aslam, but Tom Latham was the first to go out for a blob after playing only one delivery, the solitary delivery, that because all the strike was actually and in fact Latham was out in the first over itself. As I said, Mohammad Amir was predominantly taking the ball away from the batsman, and he struck by getting Latham caught by Sami Aslam, who previously dropped Latham of Mohammad Amir for a duck. So that was a quick breakthrough. And the score read 5 for 1, was G. Travel had taken some runs there. Kane Williamson came in and definitely proved his class by driving 2 balls to the fence, and he was looking in good nick as well. But Sohail Khan produced a delivery where Kane Williamson, probably there was a bit of a doubt whether he had got an edge, but one does not know whether I mean, it all went to the third umpire who was the TV umpire, and finally came the verdict that Kane Williamson was out. Caught Sarfraz Ahmed, bowled Sohail Khan for 13, and that was a big blow for New Zealand, one thought, and they were at 39 for 2. But G. Travel was continuing his good work that he showed in the first test match, as he was nicely showing some good judgment outside the off stump, and he was nicely meeting the ball with the bat, and he was there on 35 with 5 boundaries when rain stopped play, and right now when I'm talking to you, rain is still preventing play from being started on the first day of the second test match. And I have to say, Ross Taylor came and really entertained. He played some brilliant strokes. I mean, Ross Taylor, we saw he was raising his bat. I mean, he had a sort of a different stance. As I said, he has been struggling in South Africa and India, and here he came in, and today we definitely saw the Ross Taylor strokes flowing from the bat very sweetly. As you know, Ross Taylor predominantly likes to cut the ball. He's very strong on the square cut, and we all saw that the Pakistani bowlers fed him on that strong area, and he really carved some beautiful boundaries. In fact, 5 of his boundaries were of square cuts, and he finished with an unbeaten 29 to his name with 6 fours, and he was really going like a train today at 77 for 2. As I said, right now when I'm talking to you, dear fans and subscribers, play has been stopped here due to rain at Seddon Park in Hamilton. And also let me tell you that Pakistan also had Mohammad Rizwan making his test debut in this particular match. So the bowling, Mohammad Amir has looked good, 6 overs, 2 minutes, 1 for 15. Sohail 1 for 35. Imran Khan making a comeback to the team. Bowled balls, but that actually he was slanting the ball onto the off stump, so definitely he was offering a lot of width there. 7 overs, 1 minute, none for 90. And Wahab Riaz just bowled 1 over, and as I said, rain stopped play. And as I'm talking to you, the live cricket update, New Zealand are 77 for 2 against Pakistan on the first day. Well, also before I go, I would very shortly tell you that tomorrow Zimbabwe and West Indies will be facing off in the final match of the Tri-Series, which will decide whichever team wins takes on Sri Lanka in the final match of the Tri-Series in Zimbabwe on Sunday. Well, dear fans, friends, subscribers, it's about time for me to end this cricket broadcast of mine. Hope you all enjoyed it. More to come tomorrow. This is your host Ram bidding good night.